Welcome to Good Morning Interbike 2013. Good morning, Interbike. Good morning, Pat.
Good morning, David.
We're here with Pat Hus. Pat is the show director for Interbike. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, Interbike 2013 has just started, and for you, the culmination of another year. We're in a new location. It is a new year. I want to talk about the new location, but before we do, at least for me, one of the questions I've always had is, we show up here and I said this before, poof, we have a show. But for you, it doesn't quite work that way. When does planning, let's go back in time, for Interbike 2013, when did the planning begin?
The day we got back to the office.
Literally.
Yeah, when you come out of a show, the first thing you want to do is gather up the troops, and while everything's still fresh in everybody's mind, what were the goods? What were the bads? What were the uglies? How do we improve? And this year is going to be probably even more critical because we're in this new venue and we're coming upon new hurdles, new challenges that we kind of had gotten through those after 12 years in the sands.
Yeah.
So coming into the new facility, it's really critical that you start on the ground running for the next year the week after. So we have what we call a post-con meeting, and everybody brings their notes and feedback, and we start the process all over again, if you can believe it. It's crazy.
And so you start, then you do your debrief, your post-con, and then all of a sudden you're mapping out where booths are going to go and starting to talk about sales, although you may have done some of that even before the end of 2012, right?
Yeah. We've actually, at this show where people have the opportunities to sign and get started on 2014's contracts. Wow. We've announced dates. We know where we're going to be. So we can start the process literally this week while we're here. It's hard to believe that it rolls like that, but it does. And, the next 90 days, we do get to catch our breath and do a lot of more planning, strategizing, and we really start the ball aggressively in January with, sponsorship opportunities and booth locations and those kinds of things.
Sure. Let's talk about the new facility first in general. Everybody on one floor, that's got to be a big thing, right?
It is. It's been a challenge, and it's, because we've compressed. When we had the sands, we had that bottom floor, and so we sort of have an unlimited footprint down there. Well, we don't have that here. We have a finite space. So fortunately, we were able to move the health and fitness show into a ballroom downstairs, so that helped. But we were able to get everybody in. Fortunately, we also were able to utilize the parking lot. So some of our overflow and some of our exceeding demand, we were able to place companies that wanted in the show out in our new area called the Paddock.
Well, and the Paddock also offers you with some new opportunities, right? There's a show stage out there. Tell everybody some of the differences and some of the enhancements that the Paddock brings.
Well, it's funny because one of the knocks on Las Vegas and Interbike here is there's not enough opportunity to go ride bikes.
Right.
Well, we're doing a lot more of outdoor engagement with this year, kicking things off, and this parking lot is a huge arrow in our quiver. So we've got a demo track out there that's a quarter mile long. That's going to be, it's going to host the USA Crits final on Thursday night. But it's a great test track for electric bikes, for city bikes, for road bikes. And we have companies out there that aren't on the show floor but are only out in the paddock. So Campagnola's out there, and they brought a fleet of bikes, and they want people to come out and try their new electronic shifting.
Nice.
So it's fantastic. But we've got a sound stage out there that's the American Express sound stage, which is great. We'll have entertainment and music going throughout the day. We've got a big food court out there. The primary eating area is outside.
Wow.
It's great. Mandalay has their primary food area has been shut down for remodel, so they built out this area out in the paddock for us, and it's great food. There's healthy choices. There's a big misted tent, so people can go on outside and feel comfortable.
That is really nice. Now, you mentioned music in the paddock, but last night something returned to Interbike. There was a great opening party with music. First of all, industry music, which we'll talk about in a moment, and George Thorogood. So bringing a major rock act back to Interbike.
Yeah, it was time. And with the move to Mandalay, we just felt it was an important way to kick off the show. We had a really full house last night at the House of Blues, which was fantastic. Our industry band, Chromoly, which is put on by Shane Cooper from Defeat Sox.
Right.
His band kicked things off. They, rocked the house.
It was funny because I was reading some tweets during the show, and people were saying, "Wow, Chromoly rocks."
Yeah.
I mean, they really enjoyed Shane's band.
Well, it's not just. Shane's great, and he's a great musician, but he has connectivity. The guitar player plays for a group called Bad Religion. Played with the Cult for 12 years, so he's got some very well-known, very quality players in his band.
Right, that's great.
It's awesome.
That's great. And of course, George Thorogood.
Yeah, amazing. We're trying to figure out how old he was last night, and near as we could tell, he was early 60s probably.
Right.
But he brought a ton of energy. He's a great showman. He really got into it last night, too, and stayed for a couple of extra long sets, and it was great. I think everybody that was there had a great time.
Really nice. So show really literally just opened half hour ago. But leading up to it and with the exhibitors being here for several days in advance and, of course, outdoor demo, what's been the response so far to Mandalay and some of the changes that you've implemented?
Yeah. The resounding comments from exhibitors, which is all we have to go on so far, has been the service quality with Mandalay has been significantly better than they've experienced in the past. People are going out of their way. Mandalay wanted our business. They want us here. They like us. And so the service has been fantastic. We've had our challenges where there's quite a few more columns, pillars in this hall versus the sands. But we were proactive. Companies knew what they were up against. They've worked feverishly to build around and to integrate that column in if they have one in their booth. And if you go walk the floor, those columns have kind of disappeared. Once you get in there and you get the booths in place, they go away. And, it's anything like anything. Anything new, anytime there's change, there's uncomfortableness until you kind of get through round one.
But it's not like Interbike hasn't moved before, right? Anaheim, Las Vegas Convention Center, Sands Convention Center, Mandalay. I mean, I hate to say this, we've been around.
Oh, yeah. But it's been 12 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
People had settled into the sands. They knew the tricks. They knew where to go to get things. But you know what? Change is good, too. It's allowing us to do some great things. When you walk onto the show floor, there's a lot of logic that went into the way the show floor was organized. So there's neighborhoods on the floor that were areas like the mountain bike trailhead. It's boutique mountain bike brands, all sequestered in one area, like-minded souls.
Nice.
Makes the consumer, or not the consumer, but the attendee experience that much better because they can be more efficient. They're looking at all their brands in a very consolidated area. It's awesome.
You've mentioned the word consumer, so you opened the door. So today's Wednesday.
Yes, sir.
Come Friday,
for
the first time, legitimately, for the first time, we will have consumers on the show floor. Interbike by invitation. Tell everybody again what that is and what's been the response from the retailers and the exhibitors. And before you say that, I told Justin, who works for Interbike, that you guys did an amazing video showing an enthusiast out on one of those cold, dreary, rainy rides, climbing, wearing the jersey from his favorite retailer.
Yeah.
Really bringing home the message. They're loyal to you, retailer. Yes. Be loyal to them. Give them an invitation to Interbike. What's been the response?
Well, it's been sort of a mixed reaction because there are those that believe in what we're trying to do, and there are those that are resistant to that adjustment and that change. I'm a little disappointed, if I'm being honest, with the amount of pre-registration for the consumer, but I'm not surprised also. It's new. The dealers have had a lot on their plate this year with a very difficult first and second quarter. So at the time where we were asking them to get involved and broadcast and push this out to their customers, they're scraping and clawing to get back their business from the first quarters. So I'm not surprised by that. We're pleased with what we've got pre-registered. There's about 500 that are pre-registered, but we're expecting a pretty strong onslaught of folks showing up Friday morning.
What's interesting, when I'm not sitting behind this desk, I'm engaging with cycling consumers.
Yeah.
That's my beat. And what I was hearing overwhelmingly before you did Interbike by invitation was, that's great, David, that you get to go to Interbike every year, but I want to go. I'm just as much of a gearhead as you are. I want to go. And so I think when you announced it, the consumer response was, hallelujah, it's fantastic. I can finally go, and I'm not relying on videos like this. I'm not relying on the internet and printed publications. I can go see for myself. So from a consumer perspective, the response that I've heard has been positive.
Yeah, this year I'm looking at it as a proof of concept.
Yeah.
That's really where we're at. And we needed the retailer participation, and we needed to integrate them as part of the process. There are those that took advantage of it, and they've had great success with it. They used it in their marketing tools, and it was great. But we need more. We need more dealers to get involved. And we'll push it a little bit more aggressively next year. We'll simplify it and make it easier for the retailers to bring their customers to the show. You know, we're not opening the floodgates to anybody off the streets of Las Vegas to come on in here. That's not our objective. Never was. We want an enthusiast. We want a prosumer, as we like to call them, people who have, you know, they're cyclists. And they want to come see and be amongst the tribe. That's who we want.
Yeah, it makes sense. So we mentioned the changes, the fact that we've been in so many different places. I want to go back to the very beginning and something that was discussed at the industry breakfast this morning.
Yes.
Which is Interbike was founded by Steve Reddy.
Yeah.
Steve passed away earlier this year.
Yeah.
Tell us just sort of your thoughts about Steve in general.
Yeah, you know, it was a great loss to the industry because of what Steve stood for. And I didn't know Steve that well. We invited him to the show last year, and his health was diminishing pretty aggressively back then. But he made the trip, and that was an effort on his part, a Herculean effort. But just in the brief moments that I got to talk to him and meet with him, I got the sense of who the man was. And he was just a great spirit that believed in what we were trying to accomplish here as a show. And he's a believer in the dealer. He's the champion of the dealers, and the dealers loved Steve. And so I look at my role, and I try to emulate what he was able to achieve in his years leading this thing. And I want to do the same. I want to bring that spirit and that passion and that support for our attendees, the retailers, to this.
Nice.
And so, you know, he's a great loss, but I think we can learn from what he set out early on.
Yeah, well said. Very nice. Well, Pat, the show looks great. I'm looking forward to a wonderful 2013, and again, back here again next year as well. Thanks for joining us in Good Morning Interbike, and have a great show. Appreciate it very much. This is Good Morning Interbike. Please stay tuned to our YouTube channel, subscribe, and we're going to have a lot more interviews and guests talking about the 2013 edition of Interbike throughout the week. So watch us on YouTube. Thanks for joining us.